The top 1% of Christians who build extraordinary wealth understand a truth so counterintuitive, it's often overlooked by the rest. True abundance isn't found in hoarding, but in mastering the art of the divine circulation system, a principle rooted in ancient scripture that reveals how giving is the absolute bedrock of receiving. This isn't some feel-good platitude or a shallow prosperity gospel promise. It's a rigorous, often challenging framework for wealth creation and stewardship that reshapes your entire financial landscape. What if I told you that the very act you fear most, releasing what you have, is the precise mechanism God designed for your increase? This is the first of 3 extraordinary wealth secrets, known by those who walk in true biblical prosperity. These aren't just abstract ideas. They are actionable blueprints, etched into the lives of figures like Abraham, Joseph, and Solomon, principles that defy modern financial logic yet consistently deliver unparalleled results. Prepare to see wealth not as a destination, but as a dynamic flow, orchestrated by divine design, accessible to anyone willing to unlock these hidden truths and step into a different kind of financial reality. It's a reality where your faith isn't just about eternal salvation, but about tangible, earthly impact and provision. Most people view money as a finite resource, something to cling to tightly, fearing its loss. The world teaches us scarcity, pushing us into a defensive posture where every dollar feels like a precarious possession. But the truly wealthy among God's people, the 1% who consistently demonstrate biblical abundance, operate from a completely different paradigm. They grasp what I call the divine circulation system, the profound, scriptural truth that generosity isn't merely a nice gesture, it is the primary engine of exponential increase. Think of it like this: a farmer doesn't hoard his seeds, he plants them, believing in the harvest. Proverbs chapter 11 verses 24 to 25 tells us, "One gives freely, yet grows all the richer. Another withholds what he should give, and only suffers want. Whoever brings blessing will be enriched, and one who waters will himself be watered." This isn't cosmic karma, it's a direct promise from the architect of the universe. Consider the patriarch Abraham, long before the Mosaic Law was even conceived. When he returned victorious from battle, rescuing Lot, he encountered Melchizedek, priest of God Most High. What did Abraham do? Genesis chapter 14 verse 20 records that Abraham gave him 1/10 of everything. A tithe, a freewill offering, an act of acknowledgement and generosity before any commandment existed. And what followed Abraham's life? Unimaginable wealth, not just in livestock and silver and gold, but in land, influence, and an enduring legacy. He didn't give from his surplus, he gave from his first and best, demonstrating a profound trust in a God who could replenish and multiply. This wasn't a transaction, it was a declaration of faith that unlocked a flow of divine provision. How often do we let fear keep our hands closed, when the very act of opening them is designed to bring a flood of blessings? This understanding of divine circulation shifts your perspective on every financial decision. It transforms giving from an obligation to an investment. It's not about earning God's favor, but aligning with a fundamental principle of His kingdom. If you are consistently sowing into good ground, whether through tithes, offerings, supporting ministries, or strategic acts of compassion, you are activating a spiritual law of reciprocity. It might not look like a lottery win next week, but it will manifest as open doors, unexpected opportunities, divine connections, and a sustained flow of resources that defy natural explanation. The 1% aren't just dropping a few dollars in the plate. They're strategic givers, understanding that their resources are not just their own, but instruments in God's hands, designed to circulate and create impact. But this first secret often remains hidden because it demands a level of trust and countercultural thinking that most are unwilling to embrace. Now, if the first secret challenges our understanding of how wealth flows, the second secret shatters our perception of when it truly accumulates. This is the wealth of anticipation. Most people chase immediate gains, instant gratification, the quick fix. They operate on a short-term horizon, driven by consumerism and fleeting trends. But the top 1% of Christians understand that enduring, multi-generational wealth is built not just on what you have today, but on what you anticipate and diligently prepare for, with God as your ultimate strategic planner. It's about planting deep roots, not just harvesting superficial fruits. Think of Joseph, a man thrust into unimaginable circumstances in ancient Egypt. He wasn't looking for a quick buck, He was steeped in wisdom, trained by adversity, and guided by divine revelation. When Pharaoh had his troubling dreams of fat and lean cows, Joseph didn't just interpret them, he proposed an audacious, long-term economic plan for an entire nation. 7 years of abundant harvest, followed by 7 years of famine. His plan? Store up 20% of every harvest during the years of plenty. Genesis chapter 41 verses 48 to 49 tells us he gathered all the food of these 7 years of plenty, and stored up food in the cities, a great quantity, like the sand of the sea, until he stopped measuring it, for it was beyond measure. Joseph's foresight, his strategic stewardship, didn't just save Egypt. It made Pharaoh incredibly wealthy and, by extension, elevated Joseph to a position of immense power and prosperity. He saw beyond the immediate, he acted with disciplined foresight, and he positioned himself and his adopted nation for unprecedented stability and power. This isn't about being a miser, it's about being a master steward. It's about cultivating patience, practicing delayed gratification, and having a vision that extends far beyond your current paycheck or even your lifetime. The parable of the talents in Matthew chapter 25 powerfully illustrates this. The master gave talents, units of money, to 3 servants. 2 invested wisely, multiplying what they were given. The third, driven by fear, buried his talent. The reward wasn't just for hard work, but for strategic, anticipatory growth and responsible stewardship. The 1% don't just spend their income, they invest it strategically, often in ways that won't yield immediate returns, but build enduring value. They cultivate skills, acquire knowledge, build robust networks, and secure assets that will appreciate over time, all while maintaining a diligent eye on future economic shifts and God's leading. This wealth isn't accidental. It's the result of disciplined, long-term planning, rooted in a deep trust that God will honor and multiply their wise efforts. How many opportunities do we miss by focusing only on the here and now, neglecting the power of preparation for tomorrow? This brings us to the third, perhaps the most profound and genuinely forbidden secret: the unseen asset of unwavering faith. In a world obsessed with tangible assets, balance sheets, and market trends, the idea of faith as a concrete, wealth-generating asset seems almost ludicrous to many. Yet, the top 1% of Christians who experience true biblical prosperity understand that unwavering faith isn't just for spiritual comfort. It is a powerful, active force that activates divine opportunities, provides resilience in the face of financial storms, and ultimately catalyzes wealth in ways human logic simply cannot orchestrate. It's the confidence in God's provision even when circumstances scream impossibility. Let's return to Abraham, a man whose life was a masterclass in faith. God called him from Ur of the Chaldeans to a land he would later receive, a land he had never seen. Genesis chapter 12 verse 1 says, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you." This was not a financially prudent decision by worldly standards. He left everything comfortable and known, stepping into the unknown based solely on a promise. And what happened on that journey? He amassed great wealth. Genesis chapter 13 verse 2 states, "Now Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver, and in gold." He didn't have a business plan, he had a divine instruction and an unwavering belief in the God who spoke it. His faith wasn't passive hope, it was an active force that drove him to take audacious steps, to trust in unseen provision, and to persevere through trials that would break lesser men. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 1 defines faith as the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. For the wealthy Christian, this conviction isn't confined to the spiritual realm. It extends directly into their financial ventures. It's the courage to launch a business when the market looks bleak, to invest in a vision God has given them even when friends call it foolish, to stand firm in financial challenges knowing that their ultimate provider is not their bank account, but the God who owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. This faith isn't a substitute for diligence or wisdom, it's the catalyst that activates and empowers both. It helps them discern divine opportunities others overlook, to make decisions that appear counterintuitive but yield miraculous results, and to operate with a peace that allows them to take calculated, spirit-led risks while others are paralyzed by fear. How much wealth has been lost, not due to market downturns, but due to a lack of unwavering faith to step out when God calls? This forbidden wisdom of unwavering faith is often misunderstood as magical thinking or a simplistic demand and receive formula. But it's far more profound. It's a deep, abiding partnership with the Creator of all resources. It means seeking God's counsel in financial matters, patiently waiting for His timing, and then acting boldly when He gives the green light, even if it feels like stepping off a cliff. It's about understanding that God's economy isn't limited by human constraints or global recessions. His resources are infinite, and His desire is to bless those who trust Him fully, not just for their own comfort, but so they can be a conduit for His blessings to impact the world around them. This isn't about being irresponsible, it's about being divinely audacious. So, you see, these three secrets are deeply intertwined, each amplifying the others. The divine circulation system teaches us the power of open-handed generosity, cultivating a heart that mirrors God's giving nature, thus unlocking a flow of resources. The wealth of anticipation guides us in strategic stewardship and long-term vision, moving us beyond immediate gratification into building sustainable, generational abundance through diligent preparation. And finally, the unseen asset of unwavering faith empowers us to actually activate these principles, to trust in God's provision even when the path is unclear, and to take bold, Spirit-led steps that defy conventional wisdom but yield supernatural results. These aren't isolated practices, they're components of a holistic biblical approach to wealth. The 1% of Christians who know these secrets aren't just blessed financially. They are often the most impactful, the most generous, the most visionary among believers. They understand that true wealth is not just about personal accumulation, but about capacity for good, for kingdom building, for making a tangible difference in a world desperately needing God's touch. They live by a different financial rulebook, one handed down through Scripture, tried and tested through generations of faithful stewards. They understand that their money is not merely currency, it's a tool, a seed, a trust from the Almighty. What would happen if you truly began to embrace these principles? If you started viewing every dollar as a seed to be sown, an investment to be made, or an opportunity to exercise audacious faith? If you shed the fear of scarcity and embraced the abundance of a God who owns everything? This journey isn't always easy. It requires spiritual discipline, a rewiring of your conventional thinking, and a willingness to step out in faith when it feels uncomfortable. But the promise is clear, etched into the lives of biblical titans and manifested in the lives of those who dare to believe today. It's time to stop chasing fleeting gains and start building a legacy of true, biblical wealth, orchestrated by divine design. The secrets are no longer forbidden to you. The choice to unlock them, and to live in the overflowing abundance they promise, is now yours.